Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're diving into a really devastating health emergency. We usually think of a stroke or a heart attack as this sudden, out-of-the-blue event. But the medical reality, it's entirely different. These catastrophic events are actually just the final loud alarms of a destructive process that's been quietly building up in the body for a decade or more. Today, we're looking at the specific risk factors driving a massive health crisis in Ghana, and much more importantly, how we can actually stop them in their tracks.
Let's kick things off with this pretty stark warning from the World Heart Federation. Look at that word, preventable. This really establishes the sheer scale of the emergency we're dealing with here. We're talking about the absolute leading cause of death globally, and it does not have to happen.
Okay, so let's unpack this concept of silent killers. What exactly does this mean? Well, it means that conditions like high blood pressure or high blood sugar are actively damaging your blood vessels, day in and day out, literally for years. But because you don't feel a thing, no pain, no dizziness, absolutely zero obvious symptoms, the damage is just accumulating, completely undetected, until a major cardiovascular event finally hits.
Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll meet the silent killers. Second, Ghana's hypertension crisis. Third, diabetes and hidden cholesterol. Fourth, the metabolic syndrome. Fifth, the lifestyle antidote. And finally, number 6, how to take action today.
Let's jump into Section 1. Meet the silent killers, the primary culprits. These 3 conditions really stand above all others as the primary forces quietly destroying cerebrovascular health. We've got hypertension, which is high blood pressure, diabetes mellitus, or high blood sugar, and dyslipidemia, which basically means abnormal blood cholesterol and triglyceride levels. Now, in Ghana, all 3 of these conditions are absolutely epidemic right now, yet they remain massively underdiagnosed and undertreated. Which brings us to Section 2, Ghana's hypertension crisis, a true epidemic. Take a good look at these American Heart Association guidelines for blood pressure. As you probably know, blood pressure is measured as systolic over diastolic. Normal is under 120 over 80, but notice where stage 1 hypertension actually begins. It's just 130 over 80. By the time you hit 140 over 90, you are already in stage 2. Take a quick mental snapshot right now and think about where your own numbers might fall. Here is the absolutely crucial point. The danger is dose dependent. Once that top number, your systolic pressure, passes just 115, every 20-point increase literally doubles your risk of a fatal stroke. It escalates incredibly fast, accelerating atherosclerosis and just causing this progressive degeneration of the small arteries in your brain.
And this triggers what medical professionals call the rule of halves cascade in Ghana. The prevalence of hypertension in Ghanaian adults is hovering around 30 to 35% and rising fast. But out of 100 hypertensive adults, only 50%, just half, are even aware they have the condition. The rest are just walking around completely unprotected. Tragically, as we drop further down that cascade, of those who actually are aware and receiving treatment, fewer than 15% manage to achieve their target blood pressure control. So that leaves the vast majority of people with hypertension actively accruing cumulative brain and heart damage every single day, leaving them incredibly vulnerable. Moving on to Section 3, diabetes and hidden cholesterol, the hidden threats. Type 2 diabetes isn't just about blood sugar. It is a full-on vascular disease. Chronic elevated glucose damages your blood vessels through oxidative stress and inflammation. Because of this, adults with type 2 diabetes face approximately twice the risk, a 2x multiplier, of an ischemic stroke compared to non-diabetic adults. And to make matters worse, if a stroke does occur, that high blood sugar actively expands the size of the brain damage. Now, culturally, the urban Ghanaian diet is transitioning heavily right now toward high saturated fats. We're talking processed foods, heavy palm oil, and lots of red meat. And this is secretly driving undiagnosed dyslipidemia, hidden cholesterol in younger and younger adults. To protect your brain, this shift really needs to reverse back toward unsaturated fats, soluble fiber like oats and legumes, and oily fish like sardines, which are packed with protective omega-3s. Next up, Section 4. The metabolic syndrome, a multiplicative risk. So what happens when these separate silent killers team up in the body? Well, driven by poor diet, physical inactivity, and chronic stress, these conditions begin to cluster together,
into what we call metabolic syndrome. If you have abdominal obesity combined with high blood pressure, elevated fasting glucose, and a poor cholesterol profile, you're facing a danger that isn't just additive anymore, it's multiplicative. If you develop metabolic syndrome, the risk of having a stroke multiplies by 2.3 times compared to someone without it. It's basically the ultimate synergistic threat to your cardiovascular system. All right, Section 5, the lifestyle antidote. Let's talk about reversing the damage. Because here is the genuinely empowering news. These conditions are primarily lifestyle-driven, which means, especially in their early stages, they are entirely lifestyle reversible. Check out this incredible prescription. Just a simple, brisk 30-minute walk 5 days a week can drop your systolic blood pressure by 5 to 8 points. That is essentially acting as a free first-line blood pressure medication. Combine that physical activity with cutting out high-sodium seasoning cubes and using natural herbs, spices, and fresh tomatoes instead. If you do this and reassess in 3 months, the results can be life-changing. And the data fully backs this up for blood sugar as well. The famous diabetes prevention program trial showed that a structured lifestyle intervention, just a 7% weight reduction and 150 minutes of moderate physical activity a week, reduced the progression to type 2 diabetes by a staggering 58%. I mean, let that sink in. That makes this simple lifestyle shift significantly more effective than common medical interventions like metformin. Finally, Section 6, take action today, your prevention plan.
Let's translate all of this into some immediate action steps you can take today. First, get your blood pressure, fasting glucose, and cholesterol checks scheduled this month. These tests cost very little, but they can literally save your life. If you're already on medication, find out if you're actually hitting your targets. Next, start your dietary swaps this week. Replace those salty seasoning cubes with garlic, ginger, and fresh tomatoes. And finally, try adding just 1 daily serving of legumes, like beans, cowpeas, or groundnuts, to your diet to help manage your cholesterol and blood sugar. These incredibly low-cost steps can literally intercept a stroke a full decade before it happens.
I want to end this explainer by challenging you directly. If hypertension and these other silent killers are completely symptomless, what actually motivates a person to treat them? What would motivate you? Think about your family, your future, and your health. Don't wait for the silent damage to finally speak up. Go get your numbers checked today. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.